And so then Matt, your son, he ended up coming to you with a business proposal.
Well, him and I were going down to Salt Lake City to see a friend of mine about another business, a multi-level marketing thing that we could be at the very top of it or bottom, however you want to look at it. And so we're driving down the road, and I was selling Chevrolets, trying to get away from my chainsaw again, and the head guy there in the IT department, he'd been growing for 30 years. And he was talking about going legit, but he was old school and he didn't want his name registered with the state and all that kind of stuff. He never did, but he supplied me with my first little startups. And that's the garage thing. Well, my son, Matt.
Another big entrepreneur, and people in the marijuana world know Matt Morgan.
Yeah, he's been in all the magazines, a lot of talk shows. He sits on boards for publicly traded cannabis company. So he was really the driving force. We went from starting in my garage to we were in 3 states and had over 500 employees.
Really?
Yeah.
Dude, why the fuck didn't I ever know this?
Yeah, and I mean they moved down here and opened that huge grow. What was that one called again? That was
well, that company. He started out. We were Bloom, and then he got some big financial backers out of Florida. They didn't want the toxic debt. They didn't really like his partner, so he just walked away from that. That ended up selling to Curaleaf for $220 million. Mm-hmm. It would have been half his, and it would have been way bigger had he stayed there. So he built this company and got it up to over 500 employees, and then we were purchased by the same company, Curaleaf.
But you really took a risk back then. I mean, back then it was really just like everyone's scared. You saw some of your close buddies get raided, go to the pen, and it's like, oh shit.
Yeah, and once we left Montana, it was really legit in Arizona. You know, it was, you follow the rules, they're just not going to mess with you. There were people who didn't follow the rules, and they didn't mess with them. Mm-hmm. But Montana was sketchy because there were just certain guys that, you know, had a hard on for the business, and they weren't going to have it. If they could do anything to screw up your life, they were going to do it.
I noticed that some people, cops, when I was going through the police academy, some cops just will demonize it. They have such a horrible outlook, like people are just pieces of shit that smoke it. You know?
Oh yeah, I mean, it's not long ago. I mean, most older folks, you tell them about marijuana, and they're just so fucking not anymore, really, in the past couple of years. But back when we were getting into it, it was the devil.
Yeah, and the old people, it's like, well, what do you think about it being a gateway drug? And I didn't partake at the time, so I was, you know, not sticking up for something I was doing, but I was very well educated in the whole deal as far as the medicinal purposes and stuff behind it. And I just look at them, and you know what the biggest gateway drug in the world is? What? Alcohol.
Yeah.
And it is.
Yeah, 100%.
So at the time, I mean, when Matt comes to you with this, and it's like, I mean, it takes a lot of balls to just jump into something like this, especially back when you guys did it.
Well, yeah, we were driving, I think we were coming back home from meeting my big powerlifting buddy down in Salt Lake City, and he goes, Pops, and I've been talking to the guy at Carl Tyler about getting started legitimately, and he goes, Pops, I'm thinking about getting into the marijuana business. And he just wanted to see what his old redneck dad had to say about that, really. I said, really? He goes, yeah. He goes, a friend of his wanted a dispensary. He didn't want anything to do with the growing end of it. I said, well, I'm telling you right now, bud, if you're getting into that, you're getting in it with your pops. And he about crapped his pants.
You didn't expect to hear that?
No, that's the last thing. And he's a mover and a shaker. He's not going to be in there babysitting plants. That's just not his personality. So I got it rolling in the garage. And then when we expanded, I hired my younger son to work with me. And Matt was out just killing things. And then he's like, the next state going medical is Arizona. I'm going to move to Phoenix, start a hydro store and network, and I'm going to get us a license.
How long before it was legal did he like, hey, the next state that's legal?
We started my garage the end of 2008, and we moved to Phoenix in 2012. Mm-hmm. October 1st.
So Matt was really good about staying ahead of the curve.
He's a networking machine. Like, he's in all kinds of different industries now, and he just has the ability to relate to people and
build relationships.
He's a charismatic guy.
Yeah, but he doesn't come off that way. You know, and a lot of, when you tell people you're from Montana, there's almost an instant trust. It's like,
Yeah, right.
There really is.
Good old boys.
They
Yeah.
just think you're retarded.
Yep. And, you know, and I taught my sons, you know, if you look a man in the eye and shake his hand on something, he better be able to take that to the bank.
Yeah.
You know, and that's how they are. So you guys are.
That's true.
Yeah. I mean, so then, I mean, the business really, because was there a risk where like, fuck, is this not going to work out? And then you're trying to make these plants. Like, how long of a learning process was that in the garage? How many plants just fucking failed? Because I remember Sugar, when we got our first apartment, he's like, dude, I'm going to grow weed and I'm going to sell it. And I'm like, fuck it. All right, good luck, bud. He bought himself a tent. He had it in his closet. And
Little greenhouse.
He had a stem that grew about this big until he just fucking tore it all down. It was
Is
a
it
pile
that
of
hard
shit.
to grow weed?
Yeah, it really is. And I thought, well, you know, we have a killer garden every year. I can grow weeds. You know, friggin' stoned hippies can grow weed. I can do it. But it really is that difficult. And I would tell people, it's, you know, I've molested pot plants every way you can molest them. Nice. But I've only molested them the same way once.
I like that. I like that.
How much of a learning curve was it? And how did you get
we
not
can-
frustrated? Because you weren't
Because
really.
I just knew, like, these other bastards are doing it. I can do it. I'm going to figure this
You
shit
know,
out.
you're
But
smarter than them.
yeah, and Bridget and I came up with a lot of really cool shortcuts to accelerate the growth, keep good, happy plants. And then we got hooked up with a commercial grower from, well, Matt found him, of course, from California, and he really helped us a bunch. So that kind of got us tracking in the right direction at a fairly high rate of speed. So that helped us, and we just pretty much had it dialed. And Matt was like, you know, we're growing really good product. If we take that to Arizona, we'll be ahead of everyone. And we more or less were. We had, out of one dispensary in Phoenix, I believe we had 18% of the retail market for the whole state.
How many dispensaries do you distribute to?
We were just supplying our own. We couldn't grow enough hardly in Phoenix to. In Montana, I was supplying 2 dispensaries.
So I don't know how. So when you grow your pot, who do you sell it to? Is there like a person that goes and distributes it? How does it work?
When we got big, we had an actual guy that was in charge of wholesale accounts.
Okay.
So we would sell to other dispensaries, and that was his job, was to go out and hustle up wholesale business.
Like almost like a pharmaceutical rep?
Yes.
Okay.
And you can't cross state lines with it. We had the biggest grow in Utah, 90,000 square foot. There's only 13 licenses in the whole state. I think we were supplying like 11 of them.
This was yours?
That was part of the big company that Matt had started.
So how many, like when you were down here in Phoenix, how many pounds a week were you guys, or a month or whatever, how much were you producing?
I couldn't even begin to tell you. It's been years.
Ballpark?
Yeah.
I'm trying to think how many. Basically, when at that point, if you got up 2.5 pounds per light, you were doing all right. Now with LEDs and stuff, they're getting up to 4 or 5 pounds
Per light, and then how many lights were there?
Well, our biggest grow, Vegas, if it was built out, which the Cureleaf never did, was in Utah, and I had 16 flower rooms with 96 lights per room.
Okay,
So they covered 20 square feet. The tables were 5 feet wide, and they cover 4 foot of the table. So these rooms are rather large, and you do the math on 2.5 pounds. I had a really good grower there. Well, I did in every state, but yeah, 2.5 pounds times 96 lights, and they are in flower for 9 weeks. So you start adding those numbers up, 16 rooms, and you try to get at least 5 turns per room per year.
Turns?
Yeah, cycle.
Okay.
The 9 weeks.
And then how did you guys find the people to put in the right places? Because you were kind of the head over here of putting the people in the right places,
Right.
and it's always these fucking ding-dongs.
Ding dongs.
Matt, actually, he would bring his buddies, hire me, Matt. So he'd bring them to me. This is my pops, you'll be reporting directly to him. If you survive it, you'll be a better man on the other side.
Well, did any of them survive it?
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, some of them did. But there's no showing up for work late. It's just unacceptable. You don't peck and pick on any of your fellow employees. That's unacceptable.
Yeah.
So
And if you get caught stealing once,
we bring down the law. We're not just going to can you. We're going to file charges.
Does that
This
happen?
is
maybe
this
skin
is
you.
a federal
Has that happened? Has
That's the
somebody actually
biker
stole?
club
Oh
part.
yeah.
I didn't know that. I didn't know in the weed you get from the dispensary had no seeds in it.
No.
I'm like, it's been forever since I found a seed. I had no idea that they were there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because I remember they had dog security. Because would people that you like hire to trim? Because you'd have how many trimmers working at one time? Like,
Oh, 8 or 10 plus machines going.
and they're
trimming
trying
machines.
they're trying to pocket a little nug here and there, and
Yeah, we had, I think those dogs, we had 2 dogs that were like 40 grand a piece.
What kind of dogs were they?
Shepherds, German Shepherds. And they were amazing because you reek. When you're in there, especially trimmers, it's all over your gloves.
Are you even aware of smelling like that?
You're not, no. But when you go to the grocery store, everybody's like,
That's how I live my life.
Because Mariah worked there for years when
Did she
I was
really?
fighting. She would work there and go be trimming and doing different stuff. She worked there for
yeah,
years.
she was in charge of propagation, making the babies root and stuff.
There's a lot of different moving parts to this thing, huh?
Oh, yeah. Like the Tooele Grow in Salt Lake, I had 75 employees. I was general manager of each state at different times when they'd fire the GM for,
People don't realize just how big 75 employees is. Yeah, it's a lot bigger than people think.
yeah. And I was also director of cultivation for the whole company, so that involved about 125 people. But I just dealt with the managers. Unless they had a problem child, then they had to come in and talk to the principal.
Yes. Yeah, I mean,
And nobody wanted to talk to the principal. And I never raised my voice. I never belittled anybody. I just have a chat, get them chatting so we could figure out what the problem
You're a
is.
straight shooter.
Yeah, and get it taken care of and try to be a teachable moment. But at the end of that, I would tell them, now you need to understand, if you end up in this chair again for this same conversation, it won't be this conversation. It will be me wishing you the best in your future endeavors. We're moving forward
Oh,
without
that's
you.
hurtful.
uh-huh.
God,
So
get the fuck out of here.
So that straightened most people up, but some came back in for the same talk, and that's what they got. And
Did you ever catch anybody stealing?
we had a person in Tooele that had buds under the lockers that they thought they could scoop at the end of the day because we didn't have a full-time dog there, but somebody noticed him under there.
And
Well, they just fell off from the tree
Just
or
stuffed him in his butthole and snuck out.
Just keistered him? Just stuffed him in his dick hole?
They apparently thought they could put them in their street clothes or whatever when they walked out, which they very well could have because we didn't have those dogs. They don't strike on any just reeking of pot, but if you put a vape pen thing or a little corner of a bud in their shirt, they sit instantly.
Really?
It's amazing.
Wow.